Well, if you're in search of heatwave conditions as we step out of spring and into summer, I'm afraid you're going to be quite disappointed living here in the UK or Ireland. It would be Iberia would be the place to go for any appreciable warmth now and through the next few days. Thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Before we continue with the video, be sure to hit that like button, share with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. I do greatly appreciate your support. We have got the June Outlook discussed this upcoming Saturday, and then the 94th edition of the Global Weather and Climate Report will be available on Sunday. No live stream this upcoming weekend. That should hopefully be back next weekend. But this is the CDAS 0.5 data for the last 90 days. So basically incorporating the meteorological spring period of March through May. And you can see here largely warmer than average across pretty much all of Europe, with the exceptions of the far northwest of European Russia. And this is the month to date temperatures, and we have still got that west east split. We've got a rather chilly Russia versus a very warm west northwest of Europe here. Very, very warm conditions now across northern Europe, and that is associated with that strong blocking area of high pressure that we've seen dominate for the last 15 or so days here. Record breaking warm temperatures, highs in excess of 31 Celsius, believe it or not, in parts of Norway in recent days. But down across much of France and Iberia, we've seen actually quite a chilly month, a cool month, and a relatively wet month across the majority of Portugal, Spain, and France, with the exceptions of drought-stricken eastern Spain, where we've had a little bit less in the way of rainfall. It looks as if May will wind up being the warmest on record for the UK here, and it looks as if we're now nudging into wetter than average territory. There's been a lot of rain in the last week or so here that has really changed the overall rainfall distribution for the month as a whole. It had been up until around the 20th of the month, quite a dry month north of the central belt, and very wet across the Midlands and the south of the UK. But because of recent rainfall, especially further north, I think anyway it will wind up being a wetter than average May overall. We may find that the far north Highlands and the West Highlands may still be drier than average, but elsewhere I think it has been a reasonably wet month. Now, there is going to be parts of the UK, folks will be saying, how the heck are they getting this as the warmest on record? But you have to factor in that overnight minimums have been exceptionally mild. There's been a lot of cloudy nights as well that has kept the temperature from cooling off. And I think it's actually the warmer nights that are outdoing anything else. So reasonably warm days, especially across the northern UK through the first 20 days or so of the month. It has been very, very pleasant indeed, but then has changed around. We've had more in the way of low pressure even further north, but up until then, dry conditions, warm conditions by day, but also mild by night. That is likely the reason behind what will likely inevitably be the warmest May on record for the UK. So obviously I made mention of a heat across Spain and Portugal. Up until now, it hasn't been that warm, but you can see temperatures nudging 38 Celsius across parts of southwest interior Spain this afternoon. If we have a closer look at the Iberian Peninsula, you can see here that we have got a few places, 3 or 4 places that are reading 38 Celsius this afternoon. Now, if we look at the GFS here over the next few days, we have got the continuation of that warmth into the day tomorrow. You can see here that you notice that the northern half of the peninsula isn't really that warm. We've only got 14, 15, 16 Celsius quite widely along the far north. We've got low 20s for a little bit further south. And then it's really once you get into central and southern Spain, that's where you're talking about the low to mid 30s, even upper 30s across southwestern Spain and the interior south of Portugal as well. And over the next several days, we are going to continue to see this warmth dominate southern and central Spain. And then it's really as we move through the course of the weekend and into early next week. Now, you can still see the relative cool across the north of Spain and Portugal, but it's as we move into the early portions of next week some of that 30-degree warmth is going to spread northwards into northern areas of this region of Europe here, and we are going to see 30s now start to show up across southern France as well. So yeah, let's have a quick look back at the European temperature chart for just what 5 in the afternoon UK time. You can see here that we have got it's that continuation of warmth, 25, 26 Celsius, all the way up into Arctic, Norway, Sweden, and Finland here. Some very impressive warmth for the end of spring in this region of the country. Still subdued and relatively cool conditions across the near continent, across the majority of the UK as well. Eastern Europe seeing above average temperatures. Let's look specifically at the UK, and you can see here that we've only got 12 to 14 Celsius across the north, only 17, 18, 19 Celsius across the south. Now, if we look at the upcoming 7-day period of the CFSV2, you can see here that we have got relatively benign temperatures across the majority of the country here, slightly warmer than average seen by the CFSV2 across central Scotland, if you notice, slightly below average across the southeast, where we're going to have cloud and outbreaks of rain associated with a nearby area of low pressure. Low countries, France, into much of Germany, below average. There's the heat across southwest Iberia in the next 7 days. And then you notice here that the CFSV2 has a much colder air coming down through Scandinavia into the heart of Europe, and the UK and Ireland is going to see below average temperatures through the course of next week. It's as the high that's building into the UK, replacing the low that we've had through much of this week. That high builds in, and then it retrogrades back west and northwest up towards the North Atlantic and Greenland here. That NAO signal, by the way, is really going quite negative, but it's towards the end of the first week of June, I must add. We're going to start the summer off close, maybe slightly above average temperatures. Now, you notice here, as we're playing the week 3, the CFSV2 starts to see warmer conditions come back. If we look at the upper air chart here of the same model, now there's not a great signal for high versus low pressure, but this is week 1. There's that high, reasonably strong, near 1040 millibars over the central North Atlantic. That is then building its way over the UK and Ireland through the course of the upcoming weekend here. Pushes that area of low pressure into the central and southern areas of Europe. Into week 2, you notice here that the high then slips back west, and there's a trough that drops south over the heart of northern Europe here. Now, the reason probably behind this is that the MJO is rotating through phases 4 and 5 into 6, into 7, and possibly into 8. Now, in the winter time, this would be quite a cold pattern for Europe, with blocking North Atlantic, Greenland, and within the Arctic region. And it looks as if certainly as the area of enhanced convection, the active phase of the MJO rotates through the Western Pacific, we are going to see the response within the mid to upper latitude pattern. So as we continue to skip forward here, let's have a look and see what the latest ECMWF is showing for the upcoming weekend here. So if we look at the right chart, you can see here that we've got that area of low pressure over the North Sea at the moment, northerly winds, reasonably fresh conditions across the vast majority of the UK. We're struggling to hit 20 Celsius this afternoon, and it looks as if we may have other days to come where we struggle to hit that 20 Celsius threshold. So we'll play through the loop here. You can see the messy conditions becomes a little bit fewer and further between. There's that glancing blow of the decaying high that's over the North Sea at the moment here. It fades away, but not without having a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of rain down the eastern side of England, East Anglia, London, southeast, as we move through the course of tomorrow. But that high eventually starts to settle the atmosphere down over the UK through the course of at least Saturday. And then as we move into the day on Sunday, it looks as if we've got a little front feature here running around the top of the high into the northern UK. That's going to enhance cloud cover and some outbreaks of rain. Not a great deal of rain, but outbreaks of rain nonetheless across the northern UK. Further south, with sunshine, we could see 24, 25 Celsius during Sunday afternoon as the temperatures start to come down across the north with that feature. But you notice what's happening here. That high is now starting to slip away to the west here, keeping our eyes closely monitoring this low between Greenland and Norway here. Now, as that high shifts west, you're going to start to see winds turning more northwesterly and possibly even northerly as we go through the course of next week. But it takes a little while to get there. But you notice here that as we start to move through the day on Tuesday, we've got not one, but actually two areas of low pressure rotating within an upper trough here. And that is going to send colder air, not cold, but you know what I mean. We're into June, we are going to see suppressed temperatures. And as I've said, this is towards the end of week 1 of June. And you can see here that that area of low pressure, at the very least, is sending much fresher air and below average temperatures down over the UK here. If we look at the 850s, you can see here that cooler air coming southwards over the UK here. So we probably will have a day or two where we will maybe even fail to reach 20 Celsius. Notice here the contrast between Iberia and the UK. While temperatures probably stuck in low teens across northern UK, we could be talking about 40 Celsius across parts of Spain. And that quite often is the case at this early stage in the summer, where we have these big contrasts over Western Europe here. Plenty of heat to speak about across southeastern Europe. In tomorrow's video, we'll look at the latest on the La Nina situation, and then you've got plenty of content to enjoy, hopefully, over Saturday and Sunday as well. So stay tuned, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.